Imagine being an elite educational institution in your state, right?
Okay, I'm picturing it.
You have this sprawling multi-campus setup. You're shaping the lives of students from, their very first days of early learning all the way to their high school graduation.
So, a massive, comprehensive operation.
Exactly. And you even maintain international ties with a major high school in China. You're consistently ranked as a top-tier performer in your region.
Sounds incredibly successful.
It is. But when someone searches for you online, the internet just throws up a warning label.
Oh, wow. Like what?
Like a banner that essentially says, citation needed. Unclear notability. Basically saying, this place might not actually be important enough to exist.
No, that's the ultimate modern irony, isn't it?
Right. Welcome to the deep dive. Our mission today is to dig past those warning labels for you.
We are looking at the source file for Burgmann Anglican School, which is located in the Gungahlin region of Canberra, Australia.
Yeah, and we're extracting the actual story of institutional growth hidden inside what Wikipedia, as of June 2025, basically classifies as a mere stub.
The contrast between its physical reality and its digital footprint is honestly staggering.
It really is. Because this isn't just about a school, you know.
Yeah.
It's a blueprint for how massive community successes often have the humblest and sometimes most easily overlooked digital footprints.
What's fascinating here is the underlying metric of digital archiving itself. I mean, systems like Wikipedia are fundamentally built to crave secondary sources.
Right, they feed on noise.
Exactly. They want flashy news articles, corporate press releases, maybe, I don't know, a high-profile controversy.
If an organization generates loud viral moments, the internet deems it notable.
Precisely. But community institutions like schools, local healthcare clinics, neighborhood coalitions, they rarely generate that kind of flashy digital fuel.
Yeah, because their growth is quiet, it's methodical, and it's deeply local.
They don't have PR firms blasting out updates to national newspapers every week.
I mean, to me, this Wikipedia stub is kind of like looking at a blurry photograph of a massive, impressive skyscraper.
That's a really good analogy.
Right. Just because the digital footprint is messy, flagged for needing citations and lacking notability guidelines, that doesn't mean the structure itself isn't a powerhouse.
Not at all.
Is it fair that a school consistently noted as one of the best in the ACT gets tagged by Wikipedia editors for unclear notability?
Well, if we look at the reality on the ground, Burgmann Anglican School is actually a member of the Associated Southern Colleges in the Australian Capital Territory, the ACT.
Which is a pretty big deal, right?
It's a huge deal. That places it in a lead with highly established historic institutions like Canberra Grammar School, Marist College Canberra, and Radford College.
So the algorithm is essentially punishing them for putting their heads down and doing the actual work instead of writing press releases.
That is definitely one way to look at it. The curators of these digital platforms are often applying a pop culture or corporate metric to a community-driven entity.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The true notability of a school isn't found in a citation index. It's found in the local ecosystem of the Gungahlin region.
Which brings up a really interesting point. To understand how an institution actually reaches the level of the Associated Southern Colleges, we need to completely rewind the clock.
We really do. We need to look at the genesis of this project.
Because the gap between where they are now, a top-performing multi-campus powerhouse, and how they began, it's just jarring.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, let's unpack this. We're looking at a classic tech startup origin story, except it's completely disconnected from Silicon Valley.
It really is. When we trace the timeline back, we land in April 1994.
So, set the scene for me. What does the foundation of an elite ACT school actually look like in 1994?
It looks like a living room.
Wait, literally a living room?
Literally. Our sources show that Bishop George Browning reached out to a man named Ian Hayward.
Okay, and who was Ian?
Ian was one of the founding members of the Gungahlin Anglican Church. And Bishop Browning basically asked him to explore the possibility of building an Anglican school in the area.
And we have to understand the context of the Gungahlin Anglican Church at that specific time, right? Because there was no cathedral.
Right. There was no sprawling parish infrastructure at all. They were operating as a house church.
So they were meeting directly inside the living room of Ian and Margaret Hayward's home.
Exactly. You have a bishop and a handful of community members sitting on a sofa, dreaming up a comprehensive educational institution from absolute scratch.
Which requires an incredible amount of audacity, if you think about it.
Oh, totally.
But I want to focus on how they actually mobilize this idea.
Yeah.
Because today, if you want to gauge interest For a new charter school or a private institution, you launch a targeted digital ad campaign, right?
Sure, you use data analytics to find parents in a certain demographic.
Yeah. But in 1994, out of a living room, their marketing strategy was a letterbox drop.
The quintessential grassroots tactic.
They physically walked the streets of the neighborhood, dropping pieces of paper into mailboxes, and then followed that up by hosting local interest meetings.
Yeah.
But how effective is that, really? Putting a flyer in a mailbox seems like a great way to advertise a yard sale. But asking someone to trust you with their child's entire educational future.
Well, that is the crux of grassroots mobilization. If we connect this to the bigger picture, a letterbox drop isn't just marketing.
What is that?
It is a physical mapping of community need. When Ian Hayward and the early organizers were walking those streets, they weren't just dropping off paper, they were having conversations over front fences.
Oh, so they were actually looking parents in the eye.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Building an institution from a living room requires you to cultivate deep, localized trust. You are asking families to take a profound leap of faith based entirely on a shared vision.
It still blows my mind that a piece of paper in a mailbox was the seed for a top-tier institution.
Yeah.
But it clearly took a long time to germinate.
It did. The living room brainstorm was in April 1994, but the source notes the school didn't actually open its doors until February 9th, 1999.
That is almost 5 years of laying groundwork before a single class was taught.
And when those doors finally opened, the scale was remarkably modest. I mean, they opened with exactly 25 students.
25 students. You could run the entire school out of a single coffee shop.
You really could, but that constraint is exactly what allowed them to build such a durable foundation.
How so?
Well, when you only have 25 students, the margin for error is 0, right? But your ability to shape the culture is absolute.
Oh, I see.
And the source highlights a very specific mechanism they used to lock in that culture. Before the school even gained significant momentum, a foundational agreement was formalized.
Right, between the founding principal, Mr. Paul Browning, and the church rector at the time, Reverend Malcolm Richards.
Yes, an agreement to officially maintain the historic connection to the Gungahlin Anglican Church.
And this is basically a masterclass in institutional scaling.
It really is. The greatest vulnerability any organization faces when it transitions from a startup to an established entity is the dilution of its original identity.
Yeah, the values that convince those first 25 families to sign up can easily get washed away when you expand to 500 or 1,000 students.
It's the classic scaling trap. You grow the headcount, but you lose the soul.
Precisely. By formalizing that agreement between the principal and the rector early on, they hard-coded their institutional DNA.
Exactly. They ensured that the ethos of the living room church, the tight-knit community focus, the specific pastoral care approach, would remain the governing architecture.
No matter how large the physical buildings eventually became.
Right.
That makes perfect sense. They used their early constraints to build a cultural bedrock. Now, if you start a school with 25 kids and neighborhood flyers, the logical trajectory is that you become a beloved hyperlocal fixture.
Sure, you serve the suburbs.
You stay in your lane, and you become a quiet pillar of the community. But Burgmann didn't stay in its lane.
Not at all. It took a geographic leap that completely redefined its scope.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because this is the detail in the source that really forced me to double-take.
I think I know what you're going to say.
This grassroots Australian house church-originated school is actually the sister school of the affiliated high school of Sichuan University.
Right, Chengdu No. 12 Middle School. It is an incredibly ambitious pivot.
Let me push back on this a bit, though, because I'm trying to understand the actual mechanics of it. How does an institution bridge the gap from a local Gungahlin initiative to partnering with a major educational hub in Chengdu, China?
It's a big jump.
Are they just swapping a few emails a year and calling it a sister school for the marketing brochure, or is there a functional mechanism here?
No, it is highly functional, and it represents a core shift in their pedagogical philosophy.
Okay, explain that.
To understand the how, we have to understand what an international sister school partnership actually entails at this level. It goes far beyond digital pen pals. Establishing a relationship with a school like Chengdu No. 12 Middle School typically involves aligning administrative goals, establishing faculty exchanges where teachers share curriculum strategies,
And creating pathways for students to experience entirely different educational frameworks.
Exactly.
But why take that on? I mean, they already conquered the local market.
Yeah.
Why complicate a successful suburban school by trying to integrate cross-cultural Chinese curriculum elements?
Because of the responsibility that comes with their specific model.
Mhm.
Remember, Burgmann Anglican School services students from early learning all the way to grade 12.
Right.
When you hold the educational monopoly on a student for their entire developmental arc, from a toddler learning to tie their shoes to an 18-year-old preparing for university, you cannot afford to be insular.
That's a fair point.
If you only teach them how to exist within the borders of the ACT, you have failed them. By the time they reach grade 12, they are entering a globally interconnected economy.
So the partnership is essentially a tool to break the suburban bubble.
Exactly. The Chengdu Partnership is a structural mechanism to foster global citizenship. It forces the students and the faculty to engage with worldviews, problem-solving methods, and cultural paradigms that are radically different from their own.
It shows an institution that is deeply rooted in its local Anglican values, yet simultaneously stretching across the globe to ensure its graduating class is internationally literate.
It's a remarkable balancing act.
You're holding on to the anchor of the 1994 living room while unfurling a sail that catches global winds.
I love that imagery.
But to actually support that kind of ambition, to go from 25 local kids to a multi-grade powerhouse with international ties, the physical footprint of the school inevitably began to crack under the pressure.
Oh, for sure. The infrastructure has to evolve to match the pedagogy. You just cannot run a globally connected early learning to 12th grade institution using the infrastructure of a neighborhood startup.
So what does this all mean? Well, it brings us to a massive turning point in the source material. We hit the year 2009.
A huge year for them.
Two highly consequential things happen simultaneously. First, we see a changing of the guard. Paul Browning, the founding principal who helped build the school's DNA back in the 90s, he retires.
Right.
And he passes the baton to a new principal, Mr. Stephen Bowers.
Which is a profoundly vulnerable moment for any organization.
It's the classic shift from a founder CEO to an operational CEO. Browning built the startup from the ground up, navigated those early scrappy days, and established the core values.
And then Bowers comes in to institutionalize that success and manage the scale of the enterprise.
Exactly. And that operational expertise was immediately put to the test, because 2009 was also the year they radically redesigned their physical footprint.
Yes. This raises an important question about how institutions physically adapt to success. The source notes that in 2009, the school opened the Ford campus.
But they didn't just, build a second identical school. They dedicated this new campus exclusively to the K-2 demographic, kindergarten, grade 1, and grade 2.
Which is a fascinating architectural and pedagogical decision.
Let me pause you right there, though. Because whenever I hear about an institution opening an exclusive new campus for a specific group, my cynical brain immediately thinks, they just ran out of real estate.
Right, they just needed more space.
Yeah. They had too many kids, the main campus was bursting at the seams. So they bought a new plot of land and shoved the youngest kids over there because it was the easiest logistical fix.
It's a fair suspicion.
How much of this is brilliant pedagogy versus just reactive real estate management?
Well, unprecedented growth always forces a real estate crisis, but
Yeah.
the brilliance is in how they chose to resolve that crisis. They could have just built a bigger box. They could have purchased land, thrown up identical classrooms, and maintained a monolithic K-12 mega campus. But the strategic decision to isolate the K-2 demographic reflects a deep understanding of early childhood educational environments.
Walk me through the mechanics of that. Why do a 5-year-old and a 15-year-old need fundamentally different geographic spaces?
Think of it like an incubator in a greenhouse. You don't plant fragile seedlings in the middle of a dense forest where they have to compete for sunlight and nutrients with towering oak trees. You place them in a controlled climate until their roots are deep enough to handle the main ecosystem.
That is a great visual.
Pedagogically, a K-2 environment requires entirely different architecture. We're talking about physical scale, lower windows, smaller furniture, different playground textures.
Oh, I didn't even think about the furniture.
Right. And we are talking about acoustic control because early learners are easily overwhelmed by the noise and kinetic energy of high schoolers rushing between periods.
That makes total sense. A 5-year-old's primary mode of learning is play-based and sensory.
Exactly. While a 15-year-old is engaging in abstract, high-stakes academic preparation.
So if you mix them together in one giant facility, neither group actually gets what they need.
Exactly. The younger kids experience sensory overload and heightened anxiety, while the older kids lose the mature, focused spaces they need for complex study. By isolating the K through 2 students at the Ford campus, Burgmann essentially built a tailored protective universe for early childhood development. They get to be the biggest fish in a very safe, small pond.
And then, once they hit grade 3 and have developed foundational resilience and social skills, they transition to the broader campus.
It is a structural manifestation of their philosophy. They used a real estate problem as an opportunity to optimize learning for every single age group.
It shows that by 2009, the leadership was no longer just reacting to their own popularity. They were proactively designing their future. They were managing their scale with absolute precision.
It's honestly incredible to pull back and look at the full arc we have covered today.
It really is. I mean, we started this deep dive staring at a digital warning label, a Wikipedia page peppered with metadata flags, basically telling us that this topic might not be notable enough to warrant our attention.
A handful of citations and an unclear notability warning.
But when you actually take the time to unpack the facts and look at the mechanisms of growth, you uncover a masterclass in institutional scaling.
We traced a journey from an April 1994 living room brainstorm to the quiet hustle of a neighborhood letterbox drop campaign.
We saw a humble opening day in 1999, anchored by a deliberate agreement to protect the organization's soul.
We watched that hyperlocal vision confidently leap across the world to Sichuan, China, establishing a mechanism for true global citizenship.
And finally, we saw the strategic maturation in 2009, a seamless leadership transition, and the construction of the Ford campus, acting as a pedagogical incubator for their youngest learners.
From a living room sofa to a multi-campus, top-performing ACT institution, it is a profound narrative of sustained, intentional growth.
And this is exactly why we do these deep dives and why this matters to you, the listener. It is so easy to fall into the trap of letting a search engine dictate what is important.
It really is.
We see a digital record that diminishes an achievement, and we just assume it isn't worth our time. But the real-world impact of grassroots community effort doesn't need a perfectly curated digital footprint to be profound.
So,
The lesson of Burgmann Anglican School is that early constraints, having only 25 students, relying on physical flyers, they actually force an organization to build a stronger cultural foundation.
and that foundation is what allows an institution to outlast its founders, bridge global divides, and shape thousands of lives.
The internet is just the map, but the community is the actual territory.
And that leads to something I'd love for you to consider as we wrap up today.
Yeah, what's that?
We often feel paralyzed by a lack of resources when we want to make a difference. But if you are deeply passionate about filling a vital gap in your own community today, using just the simplest, most analog tools available to you right now, your modern equivalent of a 1990s letterbox drop, what kind of institution would you try to build, and who would be your first 25 believers?